Russians face cataclysmic difficulties in the south as Ukraine takes under control a major road and seizes the advantage on two front lines. To make things worse, 30,000 Ukrainians get back to get their revenge, and also Russia indirectly confirmed that yes, Putin does have doubles. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some kinda ridiculous Russian propaganda related to whether or not Putin has a double, triple, quadruple, 60-puple, uprupuple, chukrupuple, and so on. You get the idea. So long story short, this is a very big topic. A lot of people guess whether the president of Russia has some body doubles or not. And recently, the spokesperson of Kremlin, pretty much the loud mouth of Putin himself, he for some reason started saying, like, being nervously laughing, like something like this. Guys, so you know, somebody talks about Putin having doubles. No, this is absolutely, no, this is ridiculous. Our president is only one and only. And I mean, if this is such ridiculous, unbelievable news, which is definitely not true, according to the Russian authorities, why Peskov even spent his time denying it, refuting it, and also being so extremely nervous? This does kinda look like a school kid who is being late for the class, and now he's just making excuses that he got stuck in the elevator, or there was very windy outside or whatever, so he just making excuses in front of his professor. And of course, there are thousands of videos online which either confirm or deny the existence of Putin's doubles. But recently, in one of the government events in Russia, Putin kinda appeared in both of them almost at the same time, which is now becoming even more suspicious. And what is even more ridiculous is that in one of those videos, Putin had some kind of bump on his right cheek, and in the other video, this bump suddenly disappeared, which once again fueled even more speculations whether he uses doubles or not. And I'm just wondering, what's the percentage of you guys who think whether Putin does have a double or not? So just please let us all know in the comments. And speaking about percentages, 50.2% of you guys are now not subscribed to my channel, which is an increase for 50.1 from the last week. Completely unacceptable. But rest assured, all together, we can change it. And yes, I'm looking at you, Alvin, Simon, Theodore, and Clyde. This also includes you. Because all you have to do to change the statistics in our favor is to simply like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram, the weekend is here, to see how I live outside of YouTube, the link is down below. But okay, now let's get serious and talk about 30,000 Ukrainians getting back for revenge. Then we're gonna go to the east of the country where Ukrainians seized the initiative on two front lines, and then we'll finalize everything in the south, where Ukrainians are threatening cataclysmic events for Russians. And first of all, according to the British Ministry of Defense, 30,000 Ukrainians finished their training in this country way earlier, and now they're ready to be sent back to Ukraine. And besides Britain, 10 more countries were assisting training Ukrainian soldiers, such as Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Australia, Canada, Finland, Romania, Denmark, New Zealand, and Lithuania. So as you can see, these new, pretty much elite Ukrainian soldiers, to be specific 30,000 of them, have a vast knowledge from several different countries, and they're ready to bring it back to Ukraine and share it with their comrades, which will significantly increase the combat capabilities of Ukraine as a whole. And besides that, some Ukrainian pilots already started practicing flying in F-16 fighter jets in the United States of America, one step closer towards receiving these jets. And so yes, now let's quickly talk about the situation in the east, where Ukrainians seized the initiative on two front lines, and then we'll switch our attention to the south. First of all, as always, we refer to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, which claims that Russians continued their offensive along Kupiansk-Svatovo-Crimea frontline and even made some kind of unconfirmed yet gains next to Kupiansk. And also, Russians decided to do very opportunistic offensive in Bakhmut, which so far yielded absolutely no results. And since right now we are already in the month of November, season of rains officially began in Ukraine. And right here, for example, you have a video from one of the trenches along the eastern front line. You can see the conditions in which Ukrainian and obviously Russian soldiers have to fight. So that is why pretty much it is one of the reasons why there is a significant slowdown in the offensive from both sides. But it does not mean that the distant warfare needs to stop. Right here, for example, of a video, Ukrainians destroying a Russian anti-tank missile system called Kornet, located along the eastern front lines, and what is more ironic, they used to drop an anti-tank mine from a drone. In addition to that, yet another ultra-modern battle tank of Russians T-90 has been destroyed by Ukrainians as well. And as we get closer to Bakhmut, right here is the video of Ukrainians using drones, which by the way, these drones were purchased on voluntarily donated money by just regular Ukrainian citizens. So whenever you are guys donating to Ukraine, do not think that this money goes nowhere. It does go towards the defense. And so long story short, they're using these drones to destroy military equipment of Russians and doing this quite successfully. And speaking about Bakhmut itself, here is yet another video from the GoPro camera of a Ukrainian soldier fighting in this front line, which includes the pretty much compilation of the most active moments. Close-range combat, long-range combat, and everything you would pretty much expect in the modern warfare. As you can see, I do have a lot of military footage in this episode, that is why unfortunately I have to censor it because of YouTube guidelines. But if you do want to see fully uncensored episode of the Russian Dude, and since it's Friday, or I mean Saturday, I decided to make it completely for free for you guys. Just go ahead and check it, it is on my Patreon, the link is down below. And if you decide to support the channel, there are subscription options, starting as little as only $4 per month. Thank you so much. But okay, quickly back to the east of Ukraine, before switching our attention to the south. And so as of right now, as the moment of recording this video, Russians officially started their offensive against Avdiivka exactly 1 month ago, and during this month, this is the progress they made. Approximately 2.5 kilometers next to Krasnohorivka in the north, and approximately 1 kilometer to the south of Avdiivka. And for this, they wasted close to 10,000 soldiers and several couple hundreds pieces of military equipment. And if you're curious how does these changes look on the map, well, there you have it. Here is the map which shows how much land Russians captured in the entire month. And so yes, now as promised, let's briefly switch our attention to the south of Ukraine, where Ukrainians were able to establish the control over a major road, and then we'll talk about upcoming cataclysmic difficulties for Russians. But first of all, let's make a quick stop in Crimea, in Feodosia, where local residents were able to hear some very loud noises last night. According to the Ministry of Defense of Russia, they just simply intercepted Ukrainian drones, and this is the end of the story. But according to the locals, these very loud noises came from the place where Russian military barracks are located, and also from a local bay with Russian Black Sea Fleet vessels. I mean, obviously, there is almost no way we would trust the Ministry of Defense of Russia, because several hours later, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine released us this video, which shows Ukrainian drones attacking 2 Russian landing ships located in this pier, in this port. And reportedly, to make things even worse for Russians, one of these landing ships was already carrying armored personnel carriers BTR-82s. Basically means that these combat machines also went straight to the bottom. And later, the names of these 2 landing ships became public. One was named Akula and another was named Serna. And basically, according to these satellite images, later this information was also confirmed by the locals, Russian media and obviously Ukrainian media. Both of these vessels sunk. And what would be the response of Russians, you might ask? Well, you might have guessed it. They decided to attack another civilian port infrastructure located in Odessa, injuring civilian people. Reportedly, the attack was carried by hypersonic missile called Onyx, but just overall in the last 24 hours Ukrainians were able to intercept 5 out of 6 Russian Shahed drones and 1 H-59 missile. And so yes, now let's quickly get back to the actual southern front lines before talking about Russian cataclysm. And first of all, in the direction of Verbove, as you'll be able to see from this map, Ukrainians were able to liberate this small part of land. So as you can see, besides effectively defending their positions, Ukrainians are also able to continue liberating their country. In addition to that, as you get a little bit closer to the east in Velika Novosilka front line, Ukrainians were able to destroy a piece of electronic warfare of equipment of Russians located next to Novopetrikivka. And then right here is another extremely interesting video from the Dnipro river, which shows us even more Ukrainian soldiers crossing this water obstacle, landing on the other side of Kherson region. But without a doubt, the most significant event of the last 24 hours is that Ukrainians were able to establish the control, at least the fire control, over this major road in the south. Yes, on the other side of Kherson region, which goes all the way between Oleshki all the way down to Novokakhovka. And the way they made it possible is by basically splitting it in two parts. The first part of the road, which is, let's say so, under Ukrainian fire control, is located from Oleshki all the way to Poima, Pishanivka, Pidstepny and even to Kazachi Lageri, so pretty much splitting this road in half. And then there is a second part which is also fire control by Ukrainians, which basically means Russians, in case they want to bring back and forth their reinforcements and supplies between Oleshki and Novokakhovka, they are no longer able to do it. And also, the report by the Institute for the Study of War mentions that two biggest areas where Ukrainians are extremely confident and gaining the foothold, and the bridgehead is located between Antonovsky Bridge and Oleshki and also next to Krynki. In Krynki specifically, Ukrainians are even reportedly started entering these forest areas. So basically, Krynki is the place where Ukrainians are effectively crossing Dnipro river and most likely will be initiating the liberation of Kherson, hopefully in the near future. And all this for Russians means only one thing, is that they're facing cataclysmic difficulties in the south, specifically in the southern Kherson region. Because as you pretty much saw previously, they are no longer able to bring back and forth their supplies and reinforcements in these areas where Ukrainians are crossing Dnipro river. And this is just a small part of the problem for Russians. Another bigger part is that previously, several months before Ukrainians started crossing the river, Russians brought a lot of their forces away from Kherson region to defend other places, such as Zaporozhye region and the east of Ukraine. Also, a lot of those soldiers went to attack Avdiivka and never returned. So as of right now, it will be extremely difficult, or pretty much at this point impossible, for Russians to surrender or give up some of those areas, whether it be Avdiivka or Zaporozhye region, and bring once again back their soldiers to defend Kherson. Their biggest bet right now is that, yes, unfortunately, crossing rivers is one of the most complicated military-related tasks you could do, so pretty much this is their bet, is that those remaining Russians in the left side of Kherson region, they will be able to somehow slow down advancing Ukrainians. But as you can see, it is not working that much. Even more Ukrainians cross Dnipro pretty much every single day, more armored vehicles do exactly the same, and they are just once again preparing for one big push against Kherson region. And basically what do we have at this very moment, at least from the perspective of Russians, is that first of all you have Avdiivka frontline, where you need this symbolic victory, so Putin will not be ready to give it up. Then you have Zaporozhye frontline number 2, where Ukrainians are also started resume their push, and this is considered by some people as one of the most significant southern front lines, because in case Ukrainians are successful, they might go all the way down to Melitopol, which is by some people called the key city to Crimea. Whoever controls Melitopol controls Crimea. Basically what you can see here is that Putin will not be able to give up Zaporozhye frontline as well. And the frontline number 3, the most recent one, is obviously Kherson frontline, so where there's the least number of Russian soldiers, and as you can see, I don't think they will be ready to give up either Avdiivka or Zaporozhye. Most likely they will just pray and hope Ukrainians fail crossing Dnipro river, but as you can see, it is not happening. And so, as a result, we have a perfect recipe for a disaster, for cataclysmic difficulties that Russians are facing in the near future, so we might see soon some pretty good liberations. If you don't want to miss them, once again just please subscribe to my channel, it only takes one click. Thank you so much my patrons for your support, and see you on Tuesday.